Hi, I'm Nick Priegnitz with DuramaxTuner.com. Today on Diesel Insights, why is my truck getting hot? We get calls from customers pretty regularly who have upgraded their trucks with extra power, added a tuner, turbocharger, whatever, and now want to use that power in front of their trailer. And they're calling us asking, why are my EGTs hot? Why is my trans temp through the roof? Why is my engine coolant temperature out of control? On this episode, we're going to dive into that. So you're leaning on your truck going up a grade. You got the camper behind you, you're seeing your EGTs climb, all that heat's going into the turbocharger, you're driving the turbo hard. That heat from the turbocharger is going into the intercooler, coming around the front of the stack. That heat's got to go somewhere, right? So that gets loaded into the cooling stack. Also, you have the transmission working. Hopefully you have the transmission torque converter clutch locked up. You don't have any slip in the converter. We're not generating a lot of heat. But if we do start to generate heat, that heat's also going into the cooling stack. That transcooler is inside the radiator, so consider that. Furthermore, you got the radiator, right? So you got all the heat and energy coming off the cylinder heads, coming off the combustion chamber, all the heat generated by the engine as it's making power. So you got those three legs coming together in front of the cooling stack. Now the goal of that stack is to maintain that 200 degrees, 205 degrees of operating temperature. Once that fan clutch kicks on, it should pull that heat back down. If that doesn't happen, that's when we start to get into trouble. And we see coolant temperatures climbing, 215, 220, 230. Hopefully when you see that, you realize it's time to slow down, time to back the power down, downshift, ask a little less out of the truck. So before I dive back into EGTs and back into trans temperatures, I want to talk a little bit about the cooling system here. Having a clean radiator, clean intercooler, a fan clutch that works, a fan shroud that's in place and working, no bullshit bumper that blocks air from coming over the cooling stack. These things are really important. If we don't have these things, we cannot get fast-moving air, cool air over the cooling stack and get that heat out of the system. That's how the system works, so that has to be working. All right, let's look at exhaust gas temperatures. And really what we're driving at here is the efficiency of the turbocharger. An inefficient turbocharger is going to add a lot of heat to the cooling stack. So what's going to happen is the vanes are going to clamp down, or you're going to have to work the turbocharger extra hard to get the same boost level, that desired boost. What this means is high pressure in the exhaust system, high heat in the exhaust system. That high heat is going to be underneath the hood. That high heat is also going to go into the oil, and the oil temperature is going to rise, which is going to be diverted into the cooling stack as well. Okay. Furthermore, on the compressor side, when you're driving that turbocharger excessively hard, let's say you have a dirty air filter and we have to overspeed the turbocharger to get our desired boost, that extra inefficiency is going to be driven into the intercooler. So the air coming out of that turbocharger is going to be 50, 100 degrees hotter than it should be, and that heat is going to go in the intercooler and going to pollute that stack in the front with extra heat. Okay, that makes the fan clutch and the fan's job extra hard. So when the turbocharger is working inefficiently because boost leaks, vanes not working correctly, dirty air filter, improperly sized turbocharger, any of those reasons, right? Turbocharger efficiency goes down, the need for heat in the turbocharging system goes up, and that heat gets transferred into the cooling system. Let's look at transmission temperature now. And the reason I want to bring up transmission temperature is because there's a lot of power going through the transmission when you're towing a load. If that power is coupled well, that is, the clutches are not slipping and the power transfer is efficient through the transmission, then the heat being transferred into the fluid is not as high. However, if you have slipping, torque converter clutch slipping or torque converter unlocked, and you have a hydraulic slip in the converter that is uncoupled, so there's an inefficiency in the torque converter, then that heat's going to be driven into the transcooler. 9 times out of 10, the transcooler is located in the radiator. That means that the engine coolant is also impacted by the transmission cooler. And if the transmission's running hot, it's going to take away the radiator and the cooling stack's ability to get rid of heat. If you haven't noticed, I keep coming back to getting rid of heat. Anything that adds heat to the front of the truck is an enemy in this situation. High transmission temperatures are definitely an enemy. Okay, well that's all well and great, but Nick, you just talked about 10 things that are likely to cause my truck to overheat, and can you help narrow it down a little bit? Okay, so let's talk about some normals. Transmission. Normal operating temperature under load, 100 degrees over ambient. Usually once I see the transmission creeping past 210, 220, I start to get a little bit concerned. I should see that needle kind of even out and not continuously climb. If the transmission temperature is climbing past 230, 240, that's a problem. Okay, you're adding a lot of heat to the system. Either you have a slipping converter, or you have an uncoupled converter, or you have a slipping clutch pack. It's time to pull the dipstick and smell the fluid. EGTs. 1350 is the official abort number, right? My truck runs 1350 all the time. That's a problem. You should be 1100, 1200 under load, maybe creep up to 13, 1400 when you start pushing it. You might even see 15 or 16 if you're passing. Okay, it really depends on the tune, depends on the setup, depends on what you're okay with as a driver. That consistent high EGT is going to put a lot of heat under the hood. It's going to put a lot of heat into the intercooling system. It's going to put a lot of heat into the oil because the turbocharger is working hard, and a lot of the turbochargers are mostly oil cooled. EGT is something you should be watching relatively often as you're towing. What you should look for is a deviation from normal. If the truck seems to be running much hotter than normal and there's no cause for it, that is, it's not a lot warmer outside, you're not working the truck much harder than you usually do, that's when you need to start looking at the air filters, looking for boost leaks, looking for reasons why the turbochargers are working harder than normal. My EGTs seem fine, my transmission temperatures seem reasonable, my coolant temps, they continue to climb. You start seeing those coolant temperatures climb past 210, 215 consistently, especially if they seem unmanageable or the fan is constantly running. If you have a situation where your fan clutch is not turning off or it's causing you to lose speed and slow the truck down, that's a problem. Okay, that means the system is out of buffer, it's out of capacity. So you need to look for reasons why that's happening or look for ways to fix it, right? You're not getting enough airflow. Maybe the speed is low. Maybe your fan speed's not high enough because your clutch isn't working or engaging right. Maybe you're not getting good direction. Okay, maybe your shroud's busted. Maybe your shroud wasn't installed by someone who worked on the truck previously. Maybe you have mud or gunk in the radiator. Look at that stuff. If you have one of these big bumpers on the truck, they always seem to interrupt airflow. They're not designed in a wind tunnel. Go back to the stock stuff or start drilling holes in that bumper if you can't get the airflow. Look for what happened. When did the truck run right? When did the truck not run right? Did it all of a sudden start getting hot after you put the bumper on it? Okay, it's the bumper. All right, so coolant temperature. That's the culmination of the EGTs, the transmission, the oil temp, the air conditioning. As those things start to get hot, they're gonna drive coolant temperature. If you see coolant temperature start getting past 220, 230 degrees, you're on target for a head gasket failure. You're on target for major overhaul. If you see temperatures going 250, 260, sorry bud, it's gonna be expensive. Proper cooling system performance is about managing inputs and outputs. We want minimum inputs and maximum outputs. So get those EGTs under control, get those trans temperatures under control, oil temperatures under control, look at your air conditioning, and make sure that that hot air can get the hell out of the system. We want to have good airflow over the radiator, we want the fan to be working when it needs to be working, we want that airflow directional and right over the cooling stack. I'm Nick Priegnitz, this has been a Diesel Insights, hope you enjoyed it.